So shall we begin?
Good morning. Yes, let's begin. Let's start with questions and answers from yesterday. There are several good questions. Let's start with simpler questions. Mary asks, "My husband is very sensitive. His hurt feelings often turn into anger and vindictiveness towards me. He writes various complaints to authorities. We live separately, but he continues to seek revenge. Should I distance myself and move to another city in this case? How should I deal with this?"
He writes complaints to authorities. Are you beating him or something? I don't understand. He's sensitive. How can he write complaints to authorities? What does this mean? Something must have happened if he writes warrant complaints. There must be something to complain about. If you have trained in martial arts, for example, and you kicked him in the ear with your heel and he filed a complaint to the police, then it's understandable why he's upset. We need to understand what's happening between you two. If someone is filing complaints to authorities, there must be some serious reason. Being overly sensitive is due to lack of water energy. In this case, one needs to go to the swimming pool, do static exercises. We have entire seminars on this topic. We need to understand that women often behave incorrectly with men. Their behavior can be very offensive towards male nature, towards men. Well, some men are sensitive. Everyone has different characters. If you chose such a sensitive one, then you need to try to be more careful in your behavior with him. If a man is sensitive, it means the woman is prone to anger. These character flaws come from incorrect functioning of the body. That means people's subtle energy body is already depleted because there are different degrees of depletion. The first minor degree of depletion. Women develop feminine character flaws and men develop masculine ones. A man becomes angry, a woman becomes sensitive, a man becomes rough, a woman becomes emotional. It's all the same thing, just manifesting differently in different subtle energy bodies of men and women. If the depletion of the subtle energy body is higher, then the man becomes sensitive and the woman becomes prone to anger. And if the depletion is even higher, then men can't interact with women and women can't interact with men. This results in same-sex marriages. If you say he's sensitive, it means you're prone to anger, which means you have a depletion of the subtle energy body. It turns out people match each other and they get married. This means you have a similar problem. Sensitivity and anger arise due to lack of water energy. This means you need to stay in water, do static exercises. If the water temperature is 28 degrees, stay in it for 70 minutes at least once a week. Better twice a week if there's such a strong lack of water energy that makes a person sensitive. And do static exercises. Sit for 65 minutes in the butterfly pose, in the diamond pose. You can interrupt these poses for 20 seconds. You can relax 3 times during the exercise to avoid overload if it's too difficult or unbearable to sit. Sensitivity is simply a lack of energy. Of course, a person gets offended when you behave completely inappropriately with them. My experience shows that this inappropriate behavior is also often based on lack of energy. I just ran 17 kilometers, sat in water in India. There's no sensitivity at all, just calmness inside. It's very difficult to throw me off balance now because everything is good, there's enough energy. This is how one should live. First, you need to establish a healthy lifestyle. Now the next point, there are also vulnerable zones of the male and female psyche. If you tell a man, you're nothing compared to that man, if you compare him, then of course he will be offended. Or tell a woman, you're not beautiful, that one is beautiful, but you're not. Then it will also be very unpleasant. It will have an impact on her psyche. One might remember this for many years afterward. Or if a wife promised to cook, the husband came home hungry from work, there's nothing to eat, he has to go somewhere to find food. Of course, that's offensive. Sometimes people behave incomprehensibly. She says, he's sensitive, I didn't cook for him, and he got offended. Should he tolerate all your quirks? It's understandably unpleasant. There are people who are sensitive, very vulnerable by nature. You need to be more careful, gentler with the person, try not to irritate them. People have sensitive areas, some sore spots. They can't tolerate some particular topic, but you always poke at this painful spot, causing them pain. Experience shows that people mostly get offended because they lack energy. It mainly happens due to lack of energy. What to do with him? You need to work on yourself. You need to stay in the water, do static exercises. First, fill yourself with subtle energy, and since husband and wife are like communicating vessels, he will also become less sensitive. Once you're filled with energy, his sensitivity will decrease too. He'll have more water energy. Start doing static exercises, you'll develop patience. If he gets offended, you'll be able to endure it, you'll be fine. First sort yourself out, then figure out what the sensitive areas for communication are, and don't touch them. In personal life, nothing can be resolved through confrontation. Everything is resolved through kindness, patience, and love. A person will understand what you need by themselves if you treat them well. Figure out what offends them, and don't do it.
Natalia is asking, we're talking about kindness. You recommend accepting and then kindly changing a person, but I can't understand how to kindly change my husband who started using profanity when talking to his wife as if it's natural to talk like that. If I constantly criticize him for this, I notice that my own speech becomes coarse too. And not reacting is also impossible as it's like enabling it. If I get indignant, it ends in a scandal with the same profanity. How to resolve this situation kindly?
Yesterday I gave a consultation to a man who still lives with his wife. They are still together, but the family is completely destroyed. It's already impossible to live with her. She is seeing another man, and she doesn't show her husband the money she earns. She threatens with divorce, goes to birthday parties, gets drunk there, although he doesn't drink, and she didn't drink before. She does whatever she wants. The reason? He allowed more and more of these things, you understand? And this has already led to the destruction of the family. She is already filing for divorce. Why is the family destroyed? Because things that shouldn't have been allowed were allowed. Profanity is already extreme energy. If a man didn't use profanity before, she married him, and he started using dirty words. This means you should first stop talking to the person. If he swears, don't talk to him, discipline him. If he doesn't respond to your discipline methods, live separately, set conditions. If you don't do this, it will only get worse. Because first a person swears, then he'll start beating you, then he'll start cheating on you, and so on. It will all keep escalating. A person needs to be sobered up. You need to always understand that in a relationship there is always dignity, and this dignity must always be maintained clearly and firmly, because a person has their fate. You live with a person. You don't know what kind of fate they have. Maybe it's very difficult. The time comes and they start getting messed up. They develop a desire to swear, to cheat. You know how desires can overwhelm a person. And what can counteract this? It's your behavior. If you care for the person, love him. He feels this. He feels good with you, but he starts behaving badly. Well then, distance yourself, stop caring for him. Set yourself up kindly towards him. Kindness doesn't mean permissiveness. This is what people don't understand at all. If a husband beats his wife or swears, how can you behave kindly? Swearing is an insult. It's a very offensive speech that indicates that you absolutely don't respect the person at all, completely. How can one swear at a close person? It means you don't respect them at all. They are zero to you, but love has a divine nature. You need to see something divine in a person. How can you see the divine in a person who has become so brazen that they swear next to you? Self-dignity is the foundation of relationships. A person nourishes dignity from good friends, from temple, from prayer, from faith. One nourishes dignity from their parents if they behave with dignity. A person is nourished with dignity from all dignified people. No one should ever allow others to behave unworthily towards them. It must not be allowed. I had such a situation. My assistants started a revolution. They took away my social media accounts, registered all the community property to themselves, and started behaving unworthily towards me, threatening, insulting me, and so on. I just distanced myself from everything and stepped away. What's most important in such situations? Never humiliate yourself. Even if you lose everything in life, even life itself, never humiliate yourself. Don't let yourself be mentally broken. And that's it. Everything returned to me. The property was returned by court order and by pressure on them. Some social media accounts were returned. Some were created anew. Everything was returned, but if I had humiliated myself, nothing would have returned. Everything would have been destroyed. Because when people start behaving impudently, cruelly, then the most important thing is not to lose yourself. People are secondary here. This is how cruel fate works. People are always instruments. Preserve yourself, maintain a strong position, don't let yourself be broken, and keep kindness in your heart. Kindness doesn't mean that you're permissive, allowing yourself to be abused. We even filed criminal cases. People got scared and asked for mercy. If necessary, file a criminal case against someone if there's a reason. and at the same time, maintain a kind attitude towards the person. Kindness doesn't mean permissiveness. If they swear at you, talk to you using profanity, it means the time of cruel fate has come. The time has come to show your inner strength. Strength is not in responding to profanity with profanity, but strength is in isolating yourself from the person, not interacting. If they swore, that's it. Don't talk for a couple of days and maintain distance. Never allow anyone to humiliate you. If they stop swearing, you can communicate kindly again. Anything can happen. People make mistakes. It's okay. Forgive and continue to interact. If they do it again, distance again. If he started cheating, communicating with another woman, immediately start living separately. Set conditions. Don't tolerate it even for a second. People think, if I live separately now, he will leave me completely. It's better to let him leave than to live like this. Because the person will either leave anyway, or you'll sober them up now. If the person really needs you, if they truly need you, then they will return. You see, the problem is that when cruel fate comes, the rules of the game change. You have a family, so what's happening in this family? For example, the woman first met another man. Her husband asked her not to communicate with other men. She stopped communicating, but she didn't make amends. The rules of the game have changed. Now she can start meeting other men. She tells her husband, I don't love you, I need another man. She voiced this, and now if you continue living with her under the previous conditions, it means that the old life won't exist anymore. You need to start keeping distance immediately, live separately. You love another man, then live with another. That's your choice. I'm not against it. Don't allow yourself to be humiliated in a relationship. If a person makes amends, you try to live together again. When people sin, they change the rules of the game. We lived one way and then suddenly, it turns out there's a different life now. Now you can swear at me already. A person changes the rules of the game, but you don't have to agree. If they swear, keep distance, don't talk to them. They ask, why aren't you talking? You say, don't swear and I will talk. Live separately. Rent another place. Live separately if things get really tough. A person can commit violence. They can insist on new rules of the game. They might say, I will beat you then if you don't let me swear. Then you need to move out and live separately completely, right away. As soon as they say it, pack your things, take the children, and that's it, live separately. Don't give in, even if there's no money, even if it's difficult. It doesn't matter. Never give in to violence. Never give in to humiliation. When a person changes the rules of the game, starts to sin, you need to react immediately, instantly. Love is always based on dignity. Without dignity, there will be no love. Once a person tries it and sees the result, they won't do it again. That's it. You should never allow a person to do these things. And you need to understand that if a person has tried to sin once and hasn't made amends, they might try this sin again. And you must tell them clearly and plainly that there won't be a next time. If you try to do this again, then that's it. Goodbye. Keep a very firm, strong internal position while maintaining a kind attitude towards the person. Always give them an opportunity, a chance to start over. Give a chance while not allowing yourself to be humiliated. No other options. If a person has cheated, even if they've made amends, you need to keep distance from them for some time. No intimate life until your heart feels that you can build a close relationship again. Because even making amends is not enough. Penance is also needed. You need to live separately for some time. Do not get close to the person so they understand who they're living with, that they can't behave this way with you. You won't allow it. If you don't make others respect you, no one will respect you. You need to defend your internal position kindly, without tantrums, without scandals. Just kindly don't let anyone humiliate you. If people humiliate you, then you need to stand your ground. Don't give them such an opportunity. The reason why relationships change is attachment. If they tell you, I'll leave you if you don't agree, then it's better to live in a desert than in a cage with a tiger. Don't agree, don't be afraid, God will protect you. You won't be left alone. Often a woman thinks, I depend on my husband. How will I survive if he leaves? This is all nonsense, really. People live normally without any problems. One woman was left alone with 4 children, with small children, and she's doing fine. After 2 months, she already found someone else. He took her with 4 children, and everything's fine, no problems at all. God has plenty of men. If He wants, He'll choose anyone for you. The main thing is to be worthy. If you don't behave with dignity, He won't choose for you. If you decide to humiliate yourself, then go ahead and humiliate yourself. That's your choice. And some men humiliate themselves too. Anyone can become impudent, both women and men, anyone. Women become impudent, behave very hysterically, and control their husbands. Don't do this, don't do that. Their behavior is very emotional. Women lose the ability to behave properly. You need to keep your distance, don't give in. Close people sometimes behave this way because fate impacts them. Sometimes it gets very hard for a person and they start to break down. Of course, there are reasons for everything. Let's say he swears. Why does he swear? Maybe you're behaving strangely somehow. Why does he swear? Maybe you're hurting him deeply. Some women complain that their husbands beat them. You look at him, he seems like a normal man. Why does he beat? There are two reasons. If a woman constantly argues, never gives in, a man can't resist his wife because the female psyche is stronger. She can drive him up the wall. He will start fighting. Don't argue all the time with a man. If you have a different opinion, don't say anything. Just don't argue. Don't provoke him. A woman always wins over a man with a yielding approach. She kindly agrees and then does things her own way. Do not argue. If you don't argue, he will be generous, but if you argue, he will be stingy. And if he swears, there are two possibilities. Either he's fallen under bad influence and is simply changing his lifestyle. He thinks it's normal to live like this. The second option, you're pushing him to this point. He either has to swear or fight, two options. So you need to change your behavior too. Look at it, because if a woman behaves very emotionally with a man, he starts swearing. Why? Because the person is not themselves. I know examples of well-mannered people who never swore in their life. They talk to me about this topic, saying they never swear in their life. But when an argument starts, it comes to swearing. This means you're not giving in. You're treating each other inappropriately. Love doesn't tolerate truth. You need to give in. He thinks so. Well, okay. It's not a big deal. You'll get over it. Everyone can have their own opinion about everything. It's not a big deal. I know many cases, husband and wife, Ukrainian husband, Russian wife. Long story short, they split up. This is complete nonsense. Just give in. A person has a different opinion. It's not a big deal. People break up because of some political issues. This is nonsense. There are various reasons. Sometimes a person who is not inclined to swear starts swearing because his wife pushes him to it. Sometimes he loses his mind. If it's due to a wrong lifestyle, then keep distance and preserve your dignity. It means you're the one pushing him to swear. What's distance got to do with it then? Just stop being too emotional with the man. Stop arguing with him constantly about every little thing. Behave kindly. Male nature is more assertive. A man is born for victory, a woman for love. A woman should learn to give in. Otherwise, a man goes crazy, starts to rage. Next questions.
Sarah asks, what percentage of a person's character depends on upbringing? How much can parents change in a child?
It's hard to say what percentage, but definitely not 5-10, somewhere around 20, 30, 40, depending on upbringing. Upbringing is a form of self-control. Through positive examples, you simply learn something and begin to control yourself, but upbringing also means positive habits. Positive habits should be developed. In this case, upbringing means that parents go to the pool, do static exercises, prolonged continuous movement, and fasting. The child also learns to do all this. Then it's 50, 60, 70%. And if you practice prayer, if people pray, then character changes a lot. A person can even become a holy person. Therefore, influence on a person is definitely the basis for changes in general. If you listen to lectures, your whole life changes. When a person starts applying all these things, everything changes. Character changes, health changes, relationships change, family changes, work changes. First, a person's lifestyle changes. They begin by getting up on time, going to bed on time, eating on time. They remove foods that negatively affect character, meat, eggs. After 6 in the evening, they stop eating grains, legumes, dairy products, sweets, and completely eliminate meat and fish. They start fasting from time to time, little by little. Once they establish a routine, life becomes much easier, and the person doesn't lose control anymore. If a person wakes up late, their water energy burns out. They become angry and easily offended, simply because they wake up late. If you sleep until 8 or 9 in the morning, anger, resentment arise. Women become capricious, men are in a bad mood. When a person goes to bed late, the air energy fades, they become weak-willed, finding it hard to concentrate on doing anything. Lack of willpower creates passivity and fuss. They procrastinate until the last moment, then rush around. Why does one have a fussy character? Because one lacks air energy. If a person leads a correct lifestyle, has established a routine, does all asceticism practices, life becomes much easier. They become calm. When there's enough water energy, a person is calm. When there's enough air energy, they don't fuss around, they're not afraid. When there's enough sun energy, they don't get disappointed, don't fall into pessimism, they are always in a good mood. How can you live with someone who's in a bad mood? Imagine a person is constantly in a bad mood. The reason is lack of sun energy. If a person gets enough sun exposure, they are always in a good mood. I am now in India. The day before yesterday, I cleansed 3 layers of my subtle energy body with the sun. Yesterday, 3.5 layers, today 2. Whenever possible, I'm in the sun. See, I'm already all tanned. I cleanse myself with the sun, using the advantages of living in a sunny country. When there's sun energy, you can be in a very good mood. People who live in sunny countries, in hot climates, need to understand if there's stuffiness or it's hot, but you're not in the sun. Stuffiness takes away a person's sun energy. Therefore, many people who live in hot climates have a catastrophic lack of sun energy. Sun energy is only obtained when you are directly under the open sun. And if you don't receive direct sunlight, then your sun energy doesn't replenish. Due to lack of sun energy, especially in hot countries, people become furious, yelling at each other. This happens due to lack of sun energy. Their negative emotions are very pronounced. They perceive everything very negatively. That's how a lack of sun energy manifests when people live in sunny places. If a person lives in a sunny and hot climate, they should try to spend a couple of hours in direct sunlight a couple of times a week. Then everything will be fine. Therefore, you need to study how to live correctly. All of this together means upbringing. You need to study the rules of life, how to communicate, what kindness is. Kindness is the energy of God. It doesn't come from nowhere. There are 3 types of reactions when fate acts upon you. The first type of reaction is kindness. This is the most difficult type of reaction. You can do it when you have a lot of energy to withstand the blow. All this energy meant to withstand the blow of fate comes from God. If you have a connection with God, and the connection with God comes through remembering the saints. If you constantly praise the saints, want to live like the saints, you constantly feel inspiration from their lives, remember the saints, then you can withstand the blow of fate, and you have kindness in your heart. Turn the other cheek is not about humiliating yourself before everyone. It's about kindness. You tolerate a person, forgive them, give them a chance. That's kindness. If there's not enough kindness, then this stage is called defending your truth or arguing. At this stage, people argue, defend their truth. This means they lack God's energy. Next stage, even further from kindness, is hatred. Wars are hatred. When people kill each other, they're not defending anything, they're just killing. Hatred, malice, cruelty, all of this pushes a person even further from God when cruel fate weighs down. When there's no cruel fate, no one has any hatred, everyone feels normal. When cruel fate comes, hatred can enter life. Kindness is God's energy. If you're connected with God, you can react to cruelty with kindness and withstand the blow of fate. Being kind doesn't mean permissiveness. If punishment is needed, punish the person, but don't harbor evil in your heart. Stand your ground, but don't get angry. One needs to be educated throughout life, not just in childhood. In childhood, it's subconscious upbringing. A child unconsciously adopts something from parents. Parents pass something to children, and they adopt it unconsciously. Real upbringing begins when you become self-aware. Educate yourself, study how to live correctly by changing yourself. Look at your shortcomings and try to correct them. It's easiest to blame others. The other person is guilty, I'm not guilty. This usually doesn't help in life. You can analyze a close person's character in detail with psychologists, astrologers, and others. This won't help you. What will help you is if you analyze your own character and change it. This is a really effective tool. You can't force someone to behave with you the way you want, but you can easily force yourself to behave properly. You control the situation when you change yourself. You can correct another person through yourself, but no one can force a person to change, especially in their personal life. It's a pointless activity to analyze the character of a close person and try to do something with them. You can't do anything with them. Trying to change a loved one is a lost cause. The very nature of family relationships is that the energy of love does not welcome the energy of knowledge. For example, imagine a young teacher fresh out of college coming to teach a 10th grade class. She's 19 and her students are 17, or maybe she's 18 and they're 16. And she fell in love with one of the young boys who studies there, and he fell in love with her. Do you think she can teach him now? No. That's it, learning is over. Love has taken over. And if she, God forbid, gives him a failing grade, he'll think, how could you do this to me? He won't even look at her, let alone show up for their date. She gave him a failing grade, that's it, the education is over. As soon as a close relationship begins, the energy of knowledge stops working. No moralizing, you can't teach your close ones. You can explain things to anyone else. I can give lectures to anyone except my wife. I can't educate my wife at all. I don't say anything, I don't influence the situation in any way. I just let her know that she's acting in the wrong way, that's all. Talking about it is useless. It won't change anything. So, when the energy of love is at work, knowledge cannot be conveyed through arguments or insisting on your point of view. It just won't get through to the person. On the other hand, at work, where the energy of knowledge is present, you need to explain things clearly. But if you start forming close friendships with colleagues, the work suffers. They won't take their job seriously anymore, and if you push them, they'll feel hurt. If you punish them, they might quit the job and never deal with you again in life. A boss shouldn't form personal friendships with employees. At work, relationships should stay professional, nothing personal. Don't let anyone get too close. If you let one person get close, they'll start asking for favors for others. Soon everything will be a mess. People will try to reach you through that person to get what they want. You'll have a complete mess there, and work will fall apart. Business relationships don't work with love. Close relationships don't work with knowledge. So the only option is to treat your loved ones with kindness. The best thing you can do is forgive and be kind. Kindness is a divine energy that allows people to live together. If you start arguing and insisting on your own way, family life falls apart. When a conflict starts between a man and a woman, it means bad fate has arrived. What should you do? Keep your distance. If there's conflict, stay apart. When the conflict is over, come closer. Most people don't realize that relationships are regulated by distance, not by arguing. Modern psychology says talk it out, but how do you even talk in that situation? Take 2 psychologists, stick a needle in each of their buttocks, and tell them to talk. When people are in pain, they can't have a conversation. They scream and shout. It's hard for them to interact, and bad fate causes pain. They can't talk, they're shaking. How can they have a conversation? That's why distance is necessary. Once they calm down, then they can talk. Like in the joke, someone's knocking at the door. Who's there? The State Security Committee. What do you want? To talk. How many of you are there? 2. Well, then talk to each other. Among yourselves. If the mood isn't right, what's there to talk about? It's pointless. You won't achieve anything. Only through kindness can you express your point of view. And even then, only if the person is open to it. There also needs to be a strong level of trust. When people respect each other, trust increases. Then it's possible to discuss things in a kind way, without imposing, while also accepting the other person's point of view. Some opinions will differ. She sees it one way, he sees it another. That's not a big deal. You can still live together. It's normal. You don't always have to be in sync. If we don't think the same way, it doesn't mean we have to separate. You need to respect your loved one's opinion. That's normal. Upbringing is a process that begins in childhood. But here's an interesting point that parents often don't understand. You can raise a child as much as you want, but you don't know what fate has in store. If a child is destined to face difficult relationships, when puberty hits, their fate takes over. You may have raised them well, but suddenly, all that upbringing seems invisible. They start behaving in ways you can't understand, and that's possible. With time, this phase passes. As they grow older and their tough fate fades, the values they were raised with begin to show again. Especially when puberty begins. What is puberty? It's energy. It strengthens a person's ego. And when a person lacks wisdom, their ego always behaves badly. Imagine someone with weak intelligence but an inflated ego. They become like an animal. Take a tiger, for example. It has a strong ego but little intelligence. Imagine you make one wrong move and it will attack you, and that's it. You're gone. It's the same with a child. A child's intelligence is still weak, but their ego gets inflated. They start acting important. But what is ego? Ego is surrounded by devoutness, and devoutness comes from past lives. A person may have been a leader in their past life. And in this life, when puberty begins, their ego inflates on top of that devoutness and they start feeling like a leader. You talk to them, but they answer as if they're in charge. That's how ego works. It means they were a leader in their past life. Or maybe they respond like a scholar. You say something to your son, and he replies, "This requires further thought," and he's only 13. He says, "Let's analyze this topic." Yes, very well. Maybe in his past life he was the chief sage in an assembly. And he goes, "I'll reflect on this, I'll think it over." And you wonder, what's happening to him? He was a normal child before. Now I don't understand what's going on. That's just how the ego works. It builds up, expands. Or a person was a warrior. The father spanks him, and suddenly his warrior ego kicks in. He starts fighting back against his father. The father wonders, what's happening with the child? Energy from past lives comes out, and the child's behavior starts changing, regardless of upbringing. That's why raising children is about investing in their subconscious. It's about shaping deeper, unseen influences. A person wants to behave a certain way, but when their false ego inflates due to fate, their desires change. That's why upbringing works only when the right circumstances align with it. Puberty creates unfavorable circumstances for a child, very unfavorable. The ego starts to grow, they mature, and maturity often means a stronger ego. They grow up, but their intelligence is not yet fully developed. The ego expands, but the mind remains immature, so they act arrogantly. They pretend to be something, but in reality, there's nothing there. There's nothing you can do about it. Parents just have to accept them as they are and try to adapt to the new realities of life. Try to let them express themselves as they feel, but without allowing disrespect or humiliation. Upbringing is a subconscious process. It's not like a person suddenly becomes well-mannered because their parents taught them something. Puberty and fate also play a role. If puberty coincides with a difficult fate, you may not even recognize your own child. But this is temporary. Over time, their upbringing gets reinforced by conscious understanding, if they end up in good company. However, if they fall under the influence of the wrong crowd, they will absorb those qualities, and in that case, good upbringing won't help. That's why a person's environment has an enormous impact. What kind of environment do we have now? We're not surrounded by people as much as we are by the internet, by movies. Here's a little experiment. If you're on a plane with an in-flight entertainment system, check the movie selection. Out of 200 movies available, how many do you think promote strong moral values? How many? What's your guess? Maybe 1 or 2 at best. Just imagine the kind of choices people have today. They watch all sorts of nonsense, and this shapes their character. People absorb this content and become a reflection of it. And what fills their minds? It's all those movies. They show all kinds of nonsense. Even positive characters aren't what they used to be. I remember fairy tales from the 60s, 70s, and 80s of the last century. Back then, the positive hero was some kind of warrior. He had a proper appearance, a handsome face, and noble actions. He protected the weak and defeated villains. A true hero, righteous, good, and virtuous. But now, positive heroes have some stone-cold expression, or even a goblin is considered a hero. Take Batman, for example. You can't really call him a good man. In short, it's all nonsense, yet these are the so-called positive heroes now. It's horrible to watch. And yet, this is what children see as heroes. They even have toys of these so-called positive characters. This is what children absorb. So it's not just you who raises your children. Your children are being raised by the internet, movies. Your children are being raised by all these games they play, which are far from pure goodness. That's why upbringing isn't just about parenting. It's about creating the right environment for the child. Choose the movies they watch, influence their surroundings, and take an active role in shaping their values. If you live in an environment of pure goodness like where I am now, it feels like a spiritual city. Well, I'm not living here permanently, just staying for a while. Here, there's no alcohol, no meat, no fish, none at all. Some people smoke, but only visitors, not the locals. But drunkenness, that simply doesn't happen here. The atmosphere itself is pure by nature. People live a different kind of life, a spiritual, more elevated life. They pray, they go to temples. The environment is pure, uplifting. Children study in spiritual schools and learn moral principles. When the environment is pure, life itself is completely different. But if the environment is unhealthy, imagine sending your child to a school where kids are into drugs and he or she is friends with drug addicts. Some children come from families of drug addicts or criminals. Everything is mixed now. There's no clear separation anymore. That's why upbringing comes from all directions. You have to understand this. If you can guide your child properly by selecting the right movies and games, they will grow up fine. But what if you don't have that opportunity? Then lead by example. Show them the right way to live. Try to influence their surroundings. After all, upbringing always starts with yourself. If a person works on themselves, it has a strong impact on others as well, but if you try to teach others without improving yourself, it won't work. There was an experiment, I think, involving some dolls. I don't remember the name, but it was an American study. The dolls would say one thing but do another, and children copied their actions, not their words. The researchers observed the children afterward and found that kids don't follow what their parents say. They imitate how they behave. So don't expect your children to grow up well-mannered if you're not working on yourself. All right, we've been talking for an hour now, so let's move on to today's topic, character flaws. Let's explore this in more detail, as we'll discuss how the environment shapes people. Character flaws develop through life experiences and environmental influences. A tough time comes, and harsh fate leaves its mark. How does a woman's character deteriorate? If her harsh fate drains her water energy, and tough times always drain some kind of energy, water, air, or sun, her inner balance is affected. Harsh fate means your energy is depleted day by day. It drains you quickly. When a woman loses her water energy, how does she behave? She becomes moody and unpredictable. She constantly complains, "I don't like this," everything irritates her. A lack of water energy increases sensitivity. Now take a guess. If her sensitivity rises, who will be the first to feel it? Of course it's you. She will react to you because there's no one else around. It's just the two of you. So you'll be the one she directs it at. What can you do? Give her some space. Keep a little distance. Teach your loved one that if they start acting up, you'll simply take a step back. No need to ask, "Why are you behaving like this?" If you really want to understand why she acts this way, you'd have to live in a woman's body for at least 5 days. And then you find yourself in this situation: bad mood, lack of water energy, overly sensitive, reacting to everything. She can't tolerate anything, and everything irritates her. She sees a fly, she gets annoyed, a little dirt, she reacts. If nothing happens, she doesn't react outwardly, but she's still in a bad mood, and she keeps looking for a reason, thinking, "If I feel this way, someone must be to blame." Well, who else could be to blame besides the husband? There's no one else. Well, maybe the kids, if there are any. Sooner or later, the husband does something wrong. It's not hard to wait for. He slams the fridge door too hard, puts something in the wrong place, spills something, bumps into something, or forgets to fix something. There are countless little things a man can do that might irritate a woman, and she reacts. But why? Because she's severely lacking water energy. She simply can't hold it in anymore. She's been putting up with things for years, and now she says, "I've tolerated you for 10 years, but today I just can't." She's held it in for years, and it all adds up, and today is the day when everything comes pouring out. That's how it works. And you think, "What's going on? We were fine. Everything was normal. What did I do? I just spilled a little paint on her favorite furniture. No big deal." To him, it's nothing, but to her it's ruined. It has to be thrown away. I remember once I was eating, and I accidentally dropped some food. Some spices just don't wash out, but I didn't know that. I dropped something. I started eating. Usually my wife makes me put on some kind of napkin so I don't get dirty while eating. But that day I sat down in a nice shirt. She wasn't around. By the time she came back, I had already managed to stain it. And of course this was one of those stains that never come out. I didn't know. But is it a big deal? She says, "Do you even understand? This shirt, we spent so much time looking for it. And since she's already in a bad emotional state, this shirt is now a disaster. I dropped something, lost my appetite, didn't want to eat anymore. That's it. Life fell apart in that moment." The shirt indeed couldn't be cleaned afterward. I couldn't wear it for lectures anymore. For my wife, it's tragic because she had put in effort, cared about it, spent time searching for it. When a woman lacks water energy and goes through a rough period, even sitting in water or doing static exercises might not help. A bad period in life can quickly drain her water energy, making her react even more intensely to everything. And what exactly will trigger her? That depends. Every woman has her own triggers. One gets upset over one thing, another over something else. If a woman is in this state, stay away, don't get involved. You can see she's walking around finding fault with everything. So just keep your distance. The person is going through such a bad period. Life feels hard for her. She can't tolerate anything. It's really difficult. Now what about a man? How does a lack of water energy affect him? He won't react to everything or get irritated by every little thing. He'll just be angry. He'll walk around looking mad, basically. He'll hold it in, but he'll still look angry. That's also a sign of lacking water energy. It's not necessarily that he's mad at his wife. Imagine this. A woman is very sensitive. She takes things personally. Then her husband walks in looking upset. But in reality, he's thinking about work. He looks at her, but his mind is elsewhere. He's not thinking about her at all. She thinks, why is he looking at me like that? Is he crazy or what? So she asks, are you crazy? Why are you looking at me like that? She's confused because she doesn't understand his expression. She assumes his angry face is directed at her when in reality he's just having a bad day. He says, what did you just call me? And just like that, an argument starts out of nowhere. He didn't mean anything bad. He loves her. He just happened to be lost in thought about work. His face looked angry, but only because he was concentrating. She misreads his expression, gets upset, says something hurtful, and because he's already in a bad place emotionally, he snaps. And now, a fight has begun. What should you do? Don't overreact. If your husband is walking around with an angry face, don't panic. You should always perceive a person from a position of love. The husband has an angry look. Maybe he's hungry. Maybe something hit him on the head. He's in pain. Who knows why he has an angry look? Maybe something's wrong at work. But the most important rule is, if he's walking around angry, don't touch him. Don't touch him, or it will get worse. People usually think if he's angry, you need to approach him, calm him down. But if negative energy is strong, you won't succeed. Keep your distance. If you see someone angry, don't engage. Give them space, and they'll calm down on their own. Sometimes comforting helps, but only if their negative energy isn't too strong. If they're mildly upset, a kind word might help them relax. But if their stress is overwhelming, approaching them will only make things worse. So when there's a lack of water energy, men tend to get angry, while women become sensitive, moody, and emotional. That's how energies work. The problem isn't the energy itself. The real challenge is knowing how to deal with it. The first thing to understand is that you don't control this life. We can't control life. We can't always manage the moods of our loved ones. We can't make them happy all the time. And we can't even fully control our own emotions. And people don't always realize this. When negative energy affects someone, they often don't notice how their attitude or presence influences those around them. Their energy can stir up emotions in others. So here are the basic rules for dealing with a loved one's temperament. First, understand that a woman reacts differently. She is highly sensitive, easily irritated, and emotionally vulnerable. A woman's mood changes very strongly. It shifts simply due to the influence of planets. This is something men find very hard to understand. They think, what happened? She was in a good mood just a moment ago. What changed? Women create atmosphere through their mood. This is a very resourceful energy. For love to thrive, for love to flow, a woman continuously nurtures the energy of love in the family. How does she do that? Through kind and affectionate words, through cleanliness. She tidies up, creates a peaceful environment. She behaves gently, speaks softly. This is how she nurtures the energy of love, but she can only do it when she's in a good mood. If she's in a bad mood, she can't nurture love anymore, and that itself makes her feel worse. She loses control over the situation, feels miserable, and on top of that, her husband starts asking, what's wrong? Why do you look like this? Did I do something? The husband assumes she should always be cheerful, always radiating love, but now the house lacks this loving energy, and she just sits there feeling low. The man thinks, maybe I did something wrong. He means no harm. He comes up and asks, what's the matter? Why are you sitting here looking so sad? When she's in a bad mood, she can't even talk, let alone explain why she feels sad. She just sits there thinking, when will he leave? It's hard for her to communicate because she's in a bad mood. She doesn't feel like interacting, and nothing works the way it should. She can't channel the energy of love. She just feels down. So she tells him, let's talk another time. I'm not feeling well right now. But the man doesn't get it at all. His mood stays the same. He has no idea what's going on because he's never experienced it. So he says, what do you mean you're not feeling well? Everything was fine just 5 minutes ago. You were talking just now, weren't you? But for women, things can change in 5 minutes. She was fine 5 minutes ago, and now, boom, her mood is gone. Now she just sits there, feeling miserable. Men need to learn to understand this. A man's mood, on the other hand, is more stable. He stays the same. His mood does change, but not immediately. It shifts gradually. If things are bad at work, he'll stay in a bad mood. If things are good at work, he'll stay in a good mood. And so on. His mood stays stable. A man's mood is predictable. A woman's mood is unpredictable. That's why living with a woman is always fun. If you were bored and you got married, well, now you'll never be bored again. Surprises will always come your way. Everything will keep changing. One moment it's one thing, the next moment it's something else. Life will never be dull. That's how a woman's psyche works. You need to know this. For example, when my wife's mood changes, I don't go near her. I just keep myself busy and make sure not to bother her. If she comes to me and starts picking on something, I agree right away. Yes, my dear, I agree with everything. I surrender. Just raise your hands and surrender. If your wife is in a bad mood, don't argue. Just let it go, or it'll only get worse. Once she calms down, everything's fine. If she's in a good mood, you can celebrate, write, dance. Life is good. If your wife is happy, everything at home will be fine. But if she's in a bad mood, everything will be bad if you bother her. It's like those scented air fresheners people hang in cars. When air flows through, the freshener spreads a pleasant fragrance all over the car. That's what it's like when your wife is in a good mood. The atmosphere around her is nice. But if she's in a bad mood, it's like someone poured something awful on that freshener, and now it spreads the opposite effect. And you'll be stuck in that atmosphere. So don't stir things up when she's in a bad mood. Don't blow on the freshener and then nothing will spread. Everything will stay inside there. The same with men. Their mood doesn't change. But if it's bad, it can stay bad for a long time, especially if it's work-related. The key is to understand what's going on with him. If a man is angry but it's compensated anger, it means you can calm him down with a hug and he'll relax. That means it's not serious anger. But if he's in deep anger, don't go near him. It will only make things worse. He'll start arguing with you just because he's upset, and soon everyone will somehow be to blame. It's important to recognize the level of anger, and if a wife keeps throwing tantrums and a husband keeps staying angry, well, there's a saying, go take a steam bath. That's actually great advice, really. Go take a steam bath. Go to the pool, sit in the water, and relax. You need to fill yourself with water energy. If there's too much moodiness and irritation in the family, create a rule. When emotions run high, go to the water. Sit in the water, and you can even talk things out while you're there. Even if people are upset or angry, if they're in water, they can resolve their issues calmly. No heated emotions, just peaceful conversation. When a person is in water, everything is resolved easily, without problems. Now let's talk about air energy. When a woman lacks air energy, it signals the start of a difficult phase. What will happen to the woman? How will she behave? A lack of air energy means her willpower fades. She can't concentrate, she can't think clearly, and she just can't force herself to do anything. If a woman lacks air energy, she'll just stay in bed. Trust me on this one. When a woman lacks air energy, that's it. She goes into winter hibernation, summer hibernation, spring, autumn, whatever. She just stays in bed lying there, and that's it. Nothing can get her up, not persuasion, not treats. She just lies there, unwilling to move. If she doesn't have work in the morning, she just stays in bed. But if she does, it's even worse. She has to get up, but it feels exhausting, and she's completely tense. When a man lacks air energy, tension builds up. Physically, he becomes stiff and uptight, and it's hard for him to switch gears. When a man lacks air energy, he comes home from work, sits in front of the TV, stares at the screen, and just stays there. When his willpower is weakened, his psyche works like this. He needs something to occupy himself with. For a woman, the best way to rest is simply enjoying life and doing nothing. So how does she relax? She chats, does what she loves. If she enjoys knitting, she knits. If she likes painting, she paints. If she loves singing, she sings. When she relaxes, she talks to pillows, pets the dog, and plays with kids. She needs to unwind, disconnect, and avoid stress. But a man, on the other hand, has to stay occupied. He can't just relax. For example, the wife says, "Sit down, relax." He can't relax. He has tension because that's how the lack of air energy affects him. That's why when men lack air energy, they look for something to do. They need action happening outside of them. They turn on an action movie and watch. Something is happening on the screen. And inside him, air energy starts moving passively. He feels better because he sees action, someone winning. He needs to win. If he can't do it himself, he at least wants to see those he supports win. That's why he watches action movies, hockey, football. He roots for his team. They have to win. When a man is extremely low on air energy, he just zones out in front of the TV. If the lack of air energy is very severe, a man starts smoking. Why? Because that's how he relieves tension. If he doesn't smoke, the risk of stroke and heart attack increases, since a severe lack of air energy leads to spasms, and strong spasms can trigger a stroke or heart attack. That's why, if a man doesn't know how to restore air energy, he intuitively starts smoking. Women, on the other hand, don't usually like smoking. They drink tea or coffee instead. That's their way of compensating for low air energy. Gets up late, drinks tea, coffee. This indicates a lack of air energy in women. She behaves passively, doesn't want to do anything, and can't make herself get things done. Arguments arise in the family because she can't push herself to act, meaning she is not fulfilling her responsibilities. When a person doesn't fulfill their duties, it causes suffering to their loved ones, leading to conflicts. In men, a lack of air energy makes their psyche rigid. Do you know what rigid means? It means they struggle to adapt or switch focus. He can't switch from one thing to another. You tell him, take out the trash, but he just sits there thinking about it for an hour, trying to figure out how to get up from the couch. This indicates a lack of air energy. The solution is simple: walking. If you come home from work and feel mentally tense, just take a walk. A 30-minute walk makes life much easier. It helps you solve problems better. You can walk together. After work, just go. Let's say you have things to discuss. If you lack air energy, you wake up late, don't feel like doing anything, and your husband struggles to switch focus, spending his evenings watching hockey or football. This means both of you lack air energy. When your husband comes home, take his hand and go to the park. Walking together helps you resolve issues along the way. When air energy flows in, willpower activates and the mind starts working, you can find solutions more easily. This is about temporary deficiency. Now imagine if someone lacks air energy for years. A woman stays in bed for years, developing unhealthy habits. She starts drinking too much coffee, stops cooking, and convinces herself that cooking isn't her nature. But in reality, she just lacks air energy and can't handle her responsibilities. She works all day, comes home exhausted, and decides, we'll just eat at restaurants. When families rely on restaurants, the energy of love doesn't flow at home, because love can be generated naturally within the family. What are these natural ways? One of the most important is feeding your loved ones. When a woman cooks, she generates the energy of love. When she feeds her husband, he feels more love for her. When she feeds her children, they grow attached to her. Just like a dog loves the one who feeds it, the same applies to children and a husband. Care, attention, gentle and kind words all require energy. But if she's exhausted, she won't have the strength for any of this. She says, we'll eat at restaurants or cafes. The washing machine or the maid will do the laundry. People with money delegate everything to others. So now, a hired cook is the one feeding the husband. Recently, a wealthy woman complained to me, Dr. Torsunov, we have a cook who prepares all our meals. Can you imagine? She is closer to him than I am. Of course, whoever cooks for a man becomes closer to him. She says, he consults with her about everything, he speaks kindly with her and doesn't even notice me, but you don't do anything. If you don't create the energy of love at home, this is what happens. Wealthy people spend all their time on business. And as a result, love simply disappears. Nannies and cooks do everything, while the wife does nothing, so there is no flow of love in the family. Where and how can a wife give energy of love to her husband? Only through close relationships. If you don't cook, do laundry, or clean, at least do something meaningful for him. If you also work, your family may fall apart because he will seek another woman who gives him love. A man cannot live without love. Often, an unhealthy lifestyle leads to bad character. People don't replenish their energy. A lack of water energy leads to resentment, arguments, and constant fights. They lack air energy. This causes emotional coldness and detachment because people stop serving each other, love stops flowing, and energy is depleted. If a man lacks air energy, he stops working while the woman has to work because he has no strength. Let's say they have passive income from renting out apartments and the man doesn't work. But when a man works for his wife and family, his energy of love is activated. A man's love energy comes through his effort and willpower. When he works, his wife finds him more attractive. She appreciates it when he activates his willpower functions. It makes her happy. Now imagine a man with passive income who just sits at home all day watching TV. He has money, his apartments generate income, but he does nothing. How about the woman? Will she like it? A husband who just lounges around all day doing nothing? Is that an ideal situation for a woman? She'll start going crazy because his willpower functions aren't working. She'll simply find it disgusting to be near him. A woman maintains the atmosphere in the home, but he constantly ruins it. She tells him, "Listen, can you go somewhere for at least 2 or 3 hours? I just feel exhausted being around you." And why is she tired? Because he does nothing. He just stays at home all the time, completely relaxed. That's why relationship problems often arise from an unhealthy lifestyle. If a man does nothing but has passive income, at least he should exercise, move actively, train, pray, practice spirituality, or do charity work. Just do something. Don't waste your life for nothing. Imagine a piglet being fed. It does nothing but eat, eat, and eat. It becomes fat, lazy, good for slaughter, but not for living. A person must do something to truly live. If you're just waiting to be slaughtered, fine, eat and get fat. But if you want to live, you need to be active and do something. Women also justify their inability to serve because of too much work, but this doesn't change anything. If you don't give energy of love to the family, it won't be there. The husband will cheat. Let's say you work hard and feel drained. That doesn't change anything. You still need to cultivate love in the home. If you don't, your husband will become aggressive, arrogant, and start misbehaving or arguing. If a man doesn't provide financial support, energy also stops flowing. The woman gets angry, feels unloved, because when a man doesn't bring money home, it's extremely difficult for her. She feels like her life has no purpose, that she's unprotected, without resources. She's afraid of living like this. That's why character often deteriorates due to a wrong lifestyle. Everything is based on energy. There's water energy, calmness, air energy, harmony in relationships, and sun energy, mood and beauty. If sun energy is lacking, people become unattractive and stop loving each other. Why is sun energy missing? Because we constantly watch negative things on TV and absorb bad emotions. Of course, during war, sun energy will be low. Missiles are flying and there's nothing you can do about it. But if there's no war and you still keep watching bad news on TV, you're just making yourself miserable. People eat meat and fish, and this also drains sun energy because it's food associated with violence. You're putting violence inside yourself. Imagine someone attending a funeral. Will their mood improve? Of course not. Immediately they have this feeling of hopelessness for the whole day, and you are eating funerals every day. Meat is the same as a funeral. You simply eat them, bringing this energy inside yourself. But how can your sun energy function properly? It fades immediately when hopelessness enters you. What is sun energy? It is a good mood, beauty, and love. Sun energy is connected with love, happiness. When there's a lack of solar energy, love and beauty fade, and a man loses his sense of dignity. His greatness also comes from the energy of the sun. Sun energy can be increased by spending time in the sun, fasting, avoiding meat and fish, and regulating evening meals. In the evening, one should avoid eating meat, fish, eggs, dairy, grains, and sugary foods. You can eat vegetables, fruits, dried fruits, nuts. Even honey does not diminish solar energy. In fact, honey is a solar product. Sweet foods can either lower energy or raise it. Sweet spices uplift energy and enhance a person's sun energy. They are sweet, yet they increase energy, just like honey. Honey is sweet, but it boosts energy. However, any type of processed sugar lowers energy and weakens sun energy. This is why evening meals have a strong impact on sun energy, as food is closely connected to it, just as water has its own energy when you drink it. And air has its own energy when you breathe it. Food carries solar energy when you eat it, because food itself is a manifestation of solar energy. No sun, no food. Is there much food at the North Pole? Not at all, but in the tropics food is abundant. That's why the sun represents food energy. When a person lacks sun energy, what do? They overeat at night. A lack of sunlight leads to excessive nighttime eating, which is a sign of sun energy deficiency. This results in weight gain. The first stage of energy imbalance is excess weight. The second stage is benign tumors. The third stage is malignant tumors. One might ask, what do weight gain and tumors have to do with our topic? We are discussing negative character traits in men and women. But how does a lack of solar energy and weight gain affect one's character? For women, it manifests as negative emotions and depression. Excess weight significantly increases the likelihood of depression. Depression, negative emotions. Everything seems bad. This is how sun energy deficiency manifests in women. Everything is bad, this is bad, that is bad, I don't want to live, I don't like anything. For men, a lack of sun energy leads to weight gain, aggression, and a constant negative outlook on life. Accordingly, if a person fasts, spends time in the sun with a joyful mindset, goes to a sauna, in a sauna first you soak in water, then go to the steam room, then back to the water. The same applies to sun exposure. First, water, then prolonged time in the sun, then water again. The sun is the most intense energy to absorb, so it must always be balanced with water. When a person follows the right lifestyle, negative character traits diminish significantly. In modern society, about 60% of negative character traits come from energy deficiency. I can confidently say that 60% of energy deficiency leads to bad character. This is what we often call upbringing, or in other words, one's inner attitude toward the world. What is your inner attitude? What kind of inner attitude can a person have if there is a constant threat of death, making them afraid of everything? And if not fear, then aggression arises. People become aggressive, violent, and destructive. This is a sign of difficult times. When times are hard, going outside becomes dangerous. Your own people might harm you, let alone strangers. When times are tough, the whole environment becomes unsettled. This is the atmosphere a person lives in. That's why living in holy places, where the energy is pure and bright, where people serve God, is the best choice. Because your inner attitude is the second key to your character and how you perceive the world. If you love people, if you wish them happiness, if you maintain a kind-hearted attitude and live in a benevolent atmosphere, your reactions will be right. This is what it means to be well-mannered. I remember getting on a plane. The plane took off. When the fasten seatbelt sign is turned off, it means you can recline your seat. I reclined mine and suddenly I felt a hit on my back. I immediately stood up. I wanted to see what was going on. There was a very tall man sitting behind me, all cramped up in his seat. He should have chosen different seats, but he didn't think about it. When I reclined my seat, he felt extremely uncomfortable. His reaction was as if everyone around him were his enemies, as if the whole world was against him. That was his inner attitude. He reacted so strongly that I practically jumped forward. I stood up and apologized because the more aggression a person shows, the more kindness is needed to balance the situation. I apologized. Of course, it was an unpleasant situation. I adjusted my seat back and sat down, realizing there was potential danger behind me, meaning the person lacked proper upbringing. A lack of proper upbringing means either growing up in an aggressive environment or currently living in one. When a person feels that danger is everywhere, that everyone is out to harm them, that is the mindset of an ill-mannered person. On the other hand, some people react differently. Sometimes you might accidentally bump into someone, but instead of getting angry, they smile, apologize, and move on. Some people, even in the most difficult life situations, remain kind, try to make peace, resolve conflicts, and handle things carefully. This means they naturally love people. They genuinely like others, and it reflects in their attitude. Entire cities can have different general attitudes. For example, we were running in Vladikavkaz, where the mountain people live. The locals looked at us mockingly. They chuckled at the fact that we were running. That was their reaction to us. I don't mean to say anything bad. There are good people everywhere. But I noticed this reaction, and some even showed a bit of aggression. Now, a different experience. We were running in San Francisco. People there had very friendly expressions, smiling at us, but it's not the same everywhere in the U.S. When we ran in Brighton Beach, the atmosphere felt different. In New York, the general environment is more aggressive. In San Francisco, we were running along the seaside, greeting people by saying, "I wish happiness to everyone," as we always do. People there responded with warmth, waving and smiling. Only one person reacted negatively and told us to get lost when we wished them happiness. And he was Russian. He's so dull. While Americans are usually lively, you can spot one of them right away. It depends heavily on the city. In some places, people are very calm, relaxed, and friendly. In others, they tend to be more aggressive. A person's temperament, behavior, and mindset depend greatly on their city or neighborhood. For example, America has dangerous areas. You can't even step foot there. You'll be killed instantly. If you go, someone might shoot you. Many factors are at play here. Besides energy, there's also the concept of kindness or hostility, and it's especially important to cultivate kindness within the family. You should always make an effort to show your loved ones that you have a kind attitude toward them. By the way, I noticed that people in Dubai are exceptionally warm and kind. People are very hospitable and ready to help you or do something for you. Ramzia's husband is a very hospitable person, just incredibly kind and friendly. These qualities stand out in him in an extraordinary way. It comes from upbringing, of course, and being part of a big family. When you have 10, 12 siblings, try being unfriendly. It's just not possible. 5? 15?
Actually, it's 23.
23 in total. 2 wives and each had 10 children, so that makes 23 altogether. These are traditional Muslim families. Try being unkind there, and you won't find happiness. In a big family, you must be polite and considerate, otherwise you simply won't survive. That's why the second key trait of a person's character is their ability to love, and this develops gradually. You need to learn to love people, even those who look aggressive or whom you don't like. Even if you have a bad impression of someone, still try to believe there is good in them. If you treat them kindly, all the best qualities in that person will reveal themselves. I remember once a man approached me at the airport. I thought he was going to kill me right there. His appearance was very strange. He said, "Dr. Torsunov?" But I believe in seeing the best in people, so I said yes. He said, "I listened to your lectures. They're amazing. Thank you. Let me shake your hand." He grabbed my hand and nearly broke it. A good person, just had a tough look. What can you do? He listens to lectures, so he's trying to improve himself. That's just who he is. People are different. They may look a certain way, but inside, they can be completely different from how they appear. First impressions are misleading. You should try not to focus on them too much. And if you have this mindset, it's a great thing. For example, with your loved ones, no matter how they look today, don't dwell on it. Just treat them with kindness. Just adjust the distance, closer or further. This is the second factor that influences everything. It's about your fundamental perception of the people around you and the world itself. Believe me, you might think you have a good perception of people, but there's only one real way to test it. When something unexpected happens, someone insults you on the street, or an unpleasant situation arises. If you still maintain kindness and try to handle the situation calmly, it means that you have a high level of kindness deep in your heart. But if the opposite happens, if things go wrong and you immediately get angry and start arguing, it means your level of kindness is quite low. And this level of kindness needs to be nurtured and increased continuously. You should cultivate it in yourself so you can love people more. Serve others, care for them, try to understand and accept them, do something for them. It's very important. And especially in family life, this is crucial. You should always invest in your loved ones and make an effort. Do it with confidence. Always maintain an active, positive approach to life. And you should do it in a light-hearted way. For example, when I see my wife, I always feel admiration. She's so beautiful. I admire her. I try to act this way. She's happy and she really likes it. When you look at your husband, see him as a great man. Look at him that way. It's also very pleasant. This is what respect is. Respect means investing in the relationship and being confident. When people meet on the street, they should also show respect and humility, saying, "Excuse me, could you please," makes interactions more pleasant. That's why your initial attitude toward people is very important, how you perceive and approach them. And in different places, you need to adapt. Each culture is unique because people vary greatly based on their background. Take Georgia, for example. People there are very personal. You always have to interact with them informally, otherwise they take offense easily. Imagine you approach someone selling fruits or something else. It's important to start with a compliment. You could say, "Your shop looks so beautiful, it's really nice," or "Everything is so neat and well arranged." The seller will immediately smile and say, "Take whatever you like." Sometimes they'll even say, "I'll give it to you for free." They are very warm-hearted and generous. But on the other hand, if you come across as rude, kick something, or act disrespectfully, they will react the opposite way. "Just walk on. I don't want to sell anything to you." Their response changes immediately. In other places, like some parts of Europe, people tend to be more impersonal. They won't pay much attention to you. Even if you approach them, they usually remain neutral. Every place is different, so naturally you adapt to the local way of doing things. For example, when I was in Thailand, I saw a Russian man complaining, "This is wrong, that is wrong." He was talking to a Thai vendor. The vendor stood there humbly, pressed his palms together and said, "It would be better if you hit me than speak to me like this." He continued, "Either speak respectfully or I will leave. I'll close my shop. I won't do business." He said it very gently and kindly, and at that moment it became clear to everyone who was in the right. Every culture has a different way of behaving. You should learn from places where people act with dignity. If you find yourself in an aggressive environment, it's best to stay cautious and keep your distance. If the environment is friendly, then engage with people. If the culture values humility and respect, then act accordingly. We are discussing how to respond to different personalities, to character flaws, but I wasn't talking about flaws, I was talking about cultivating the right energy. That should be the priority. The second most important thing is your attitude towards the world, and this attitude is shaped primarily through prayer. Of course, upbringing is crucial, but prayer is even more powerful. If holiness and faith live in your heart, you will always have kindness toward others. Holy people are always kind to others. The next important quality is knowledge. Knowledge comes only in third place, but it is still very important. It's important to understand people's weak spots and what is acceptable for whom. For example, if a woman stays in bed in the morning, it's fine. If a man does it, it's worse. If a man smokes, it's not as bad as if a woman smokes. If a man drinks, it's not as bad as if a woman drinks. There are differences between men and women. If a woman doesn't work, it's not a problem. If a man doesn't work, it's a serious problem. If a man doesn't raise children, it's not a big issue. If a woman doesn't, it's a serious problem. If a man is not tidy, it's not a big deal. If a woman isn't, it's a major problem. In other words, these differences are huge and important. If a woman is moody, it's fine. If a man is moody, it's a problem. If a man gets angry sometimes and speaks strictly, it's not a big deal. If a woman gets angry, it's a problem. There are different levels of character flaws, acceptable and unacceptable. For example, being late is considered an acceptable flaw for a woman. It's in her nature. By the time she's ready, it's already late. That's why a man should understand that a woman has such a natural character flaw and tell her to be at the theater by 1:40 instead of 2. That way you'll be there by 2. This is where male logic comes in. If you want lunch at 1 p.m., say have it ready by 12:30, then she'll be on time. Some women manage to be on time, but it's hard for them. All women struggle with time. All men struggle with cleanliness. Of course, some men are neat, but most don't worry too much about cleanliness. It's just how they are. Everyone has their own flaws. I remember watching a video about how people interact with lions. A man put on very thick clothing and went to bond with a lion. He trained them. To the lions, he's like both a mother and a father. He trained them. He hugged the lion, and it started scratching him. Its claws are so sharp they could leave scars, but he's wearing special clothing designed for that. This is how he interacts with the lion. The lion scratches him, showing him love. Such a powerful, dangerous predator, yet he hugs it, and the lion playfully claws at him. That's their way of showing love. The same applies when dealing with people. You have to consider their individual traits. Generally, men are very single-minded. For example, a wife approaches her husband while he's on the phone. He sees her, but he's not fully present. She feels ignored and thinks, why isn't he paying attention to me? I came up to him, but you approached at the wrong time. He hasn't switched his focus yet. If she had approached him after he put the phone down, he would have noticed her. But if he's in the middle of an important conversation, his mind is completely absorbed in it. He simply doesn't see her. He might look at her and even say hello, but he's not really seeing her. That's the difference. When a woman goes somewhere, she notices everything. Her mind is naturally multitasking. She can process multiple things at once and interact in different directions. That's how a woman is built. Imagine a mother with 5 kids. She's changing one, talking to another, and winking at the third all at the same time. She can juggle 10 things at once because that's how God designed women to survive in such situations. She has so many people to look after, yet she can keep track of all 5 children at once without a problem. She knows exactly what's happening and where. A woman stays in control of the whole situation, while a man can only focus on one child at a time, and if he's on the phone, then none at all. If someone calls him, he starts talking and the kids scatter. He has no idea what's going on because he's focused on the call. Then his wife comes back and sees the kids running wild while he's still on the phone. Of course, he feels guilty, but you can't change human nature. It's natural for a woman to keep an eye on the kids, but not for a man. That's why it's important to understand your partner's nature. A man should recognize that a woman's mood changes. Pay attention. Observe her. If she's in a bad mood, don't go near her. Don't touch her. If she's in a good mood, go ahead. Observe. Pay attention to what's happening. A woman should also pay attention to her husband. For example, men have a natural flaw. They don't realize when they're sick. A man only admits he's sick when he's in the emergency room. So who should notice when a man is unwell? The woman should watch him, how he moves, how he talks. If a man gets sick and his wife doesn't react, she shouldn't be surprised if he dies before his time. A man can die suddenly because he doesn't sense health risks. Nature made men this way. They don't feel their own condition, but women do. With women, it's the opposite. A slight pain and she already feels unwell. But a man, even if something hurts, he'll say, "I'm fine." I ask men, "Do you have any health issues?" And they say, "No, nothing at all." Then you ask a little more and it turns out his knee hurts, his back aches, and his blood pressure is high. But to him, that's not an illness. He'll say, "I don't feel it. It's there, but I don't notice it." A man doesn't feel anything. His wife has to feel it for him. Once my eye pressure started rising and my wife said, "Why are you looking at me so strangely?" I said, "I can barely see with one eye." She told me, "Go to the eye doctor immediately." The doctor measured the pressure and it turned out to be very high in the eye. Of course, he didn't cure it. Now I regulate it myself by placing seeds in my ear. Later, we discovered that my eye pressure increases from using the computer because of exposure to artificial light. This raises the pressure. It's just part of my work. Even though I do all sorts of cleansing, I still need to protect my eyes. They get overloaded from negative computer energy. Then I started researching and found out that everyone's eye pressure increases from using computers. For some, it's just a slight increase if their eyes aren't very sensitive, but for others it can go up a lot, and that's dangerous. And she saved my eyes because she noticed that I couldn't see well, but I somehow didn't notice it myself. Recently, my wife asked me something, and I didn't hear it. She said, "Has your hearing deteriorated?" She started asking me in one ear, then in the other. One of my ears could barely hear. She laid me down, poured hydrogen peroxide in there, and it started fizzing. She said, "Oh, you probably have a blockage in the ear." We poured it in for 2 or 3 days, then a big blockage came out and I started hearing again. It happened yesterday. I hadn't noticed it before. She told me something, I didn't hear it, and she immediately understood what was happening. She diagnosed the problem, laid me down, poured in hydrogen peroxide and removed the blockage. Then she checked the other ear. There was a blockage there too. Now she'll be treating that one. I'm giving these examples so you understand. It's the natural nature of a man. If he's very busy, he doesn't care about himself or his health at all. A woman should keep an eye on this. But on the other hand, how should we treat a woman now? She gets sick and immediately starts to panic. You need to calm her down, saying, "Everything is fine, don't worry, we'll solve everything. Everything is okay." A woman needs to be constantly reassured, while a man needs to be looked after. A woman has high sensitivity. She panics immediately. That means that she immediately falls into a kind of willpower stupor. That means that if something happens, she immediately starts to worry. What should we do now? How can we live now? Everything is bad. You need to calm her down, saying, "It's nothing. Everything is okay. Don't worry. Everything will be fine." And she immediately snaps out of it and starts thinking clearly. So there are peculiarities in the character of men and women, and you need to understand these peculiarities very deeply and always react correctly. The most important thing is not to pay attention to it, to get used to it. For example, my wife sleeps longer than usual. I don't pay any attention to it at all. I stay calm about it. If, let's say, her willpower functions shut down, I help out. I wash the dishes, help her around the house, and don't make a problem out of it at all. Some men start making problems. This means they don't understand character peculiarities. For instance, if I have a mess, my wife comes and cleans it up and doesn't say anything at all. That's also normal. That means that you need to accept a person as they are and try to cooperate, be friends. Cooperating means accepting the character of your loved one as it is and trying to do something with it. Try to help them improve. Sometimes an incorrect lifestyle affects the situation. For example, you need to watch energy expenditure. Let's say a man works a lot. His willpower functions naturally become weak. You shouldn't give him more tasks at home. If he's exhausted from work, you need to create a nice atmosphere at home so he can rest. If you need to hammer a nail, invite someone, pay them money. If he works a lot, it means there's money. Invite someone else. Let your husband rest at home. If a woman has many children and she's busy with them all the time, give her an opportunity. Hire a nanny for some time. That's a very correct approach. If a woman is very busy at home, she starts to go crazy because a contradiction arises. That means that she wants to continue to take care of her loved ones, but she has no ability, no strength, and tantrums begin. She starts to lose temper, behaving emotionally. If a man notices this, he should simply invite a nanny for some time. She takes care of the children, and the wife is free to chat with a friend. Why does she need this? She'll be recovering this way. Some women recover with friends, some recover at lectures, they need to attend lectures, some recover at the theater, they need to go to theaters. Some recover when they do some good deeds or something else. That means that each woman has her own recovery system. You just need to find out what your wife's system is. If you see that she's overstressed in the family, give her an opportunity to recover. Don't keep her at home all the time. This won't help you. A man recovers through sports. This is a good way. Sitting in front of the TV doesn't lead to recovery, it's just wasting time. If a man, for example, likes to play volleyball or football, you need to give him the opportunity, let him run, let him do sports. Or let's say a man recovers through some kind of hobby. It's best if he does sports activities. This is the best, because otherwise there will be no recovery. That means that you need to watch your loved one to ensure they recover. Often character deteriorates because a person doesn't recover and experiences tension. Sometimes character deteriorates due to a bad external atmosphere. For example, if there's a war going on, everyone's character will deteriorate. You need to make allowances for this. That means that you need to treat people kindly, even if they're having tantrums or are in panic. You need to understand that people are in a very difficult environment. Or, for example, a baby is born. A woman is under terrible tension, doesn't sleep at night, constantly running around. It's clear that her character will deteriorate. She'll become capricious. Her character will deteriorate. You also need to try to treat this kindly, not pay attention to it. Or a man works night shifts, for example. Night shifts cause immediate character deterioration because the person sleeps during the day. It's clear that his character will deteriorate. His energy immediately gets disrupted. Therefore, try to avoid night shifts, change a job, and understand that while a person works night shifts, his character will definitely deteriorate. All kinds of situations, moving to a new place, for example, for a woman is very painful because she's used to this place. She's cleaned everything here. What does an apartment mean for a woman? She's arranged everything there, everything is in its place. She knows everything, she's used to this apartment. Suddenly she has to relocate. Clearly it's stressful for her. She gets nervous, freaks out, and she's used to living in this place. She's shaking. She'll naturally start arguing with you because she has no energy due to this relocation. For a woman, moving is always stressful, so she will be capricious. In general, it's very difficult for a woman to move to a new place. It's easier for a man to relocate. A woman has a more stable lifestyle. The fewer movements, the better. Women's psyche works this way. For men, it's normal. They can fly, move to a new place. It doesn't affect their mental functions as much. So everyone has their peculiarities. For a woman, children are of very great value. If something is slightly wrong with a child, she immediately freaks out. All her energy drains away. She goes, "Oh, I can't cope with it. What will happen to the child now?" That means that you need to take this into account too. A woman is strongly attached to her children. This is natural for women. So if she's worried, treat it normally. Don't say, "What are you talking about? Everything is fine. Nothing bad will happen to the child at all. It's not a big deal if the knee is swollen." Such thinking shows indifference. So a woman naturally gets offended if a man doesn't understand her female nature. She feels hurt. Or, for example, in Indian homes, lizards crawl around, right inside the house. Such domestic lizards, wall lizards. This is a common thing. That means that such a lizard sits there, doesn't bother anyone, just sits there, catches flies. Because in India there are many, many flying insects, and these lizards appear in houses. I explained to my wife that lizards are scary, unpleasant creatures, but they are necessary because they catch flies. Otherwise, everything will be covered in flies, and she accepted it. In general, for a woman, if there are some insects, lizards in the room, it's a terrifying thing for her. It's very difficult for her to accept this, and men don't understand why. What's the big deal? Well, a caterpillar crawled by. It's nothing terrible. Women cannot accept it, tolerate it. It's a peculiarity of their psychology. Nothing can be done about it. Therefore, everyone has their own peculiarities. You need to study them. First, you need to understand the most important thing. Character deteriorates significantly from lack of energy. I've already explained. The first stage of energy deficiency means that women immediately develop female flaws, being easily offended, sensitivity, laziness, negative emotions. They become capricious and so on. Men develop male flaws, such as anger, stubbornness, internal tension, bad habits, and so on. This is all simply a lack of energy. When a person starts a healthy lifestyle, female energy deficiencies stop, male ones stop, but there is also a second stage. If you've had an energy deficiency for a long time, then your wife develops male character flaws. She becomes rough. She becomes a workaholic. Because she can't stay at home, because home requires a lot of energy from the woman. But she has no energy, so she runs away from home. She wants to work, doesn't want to be at home, because there's no energy. She starts smoking. Male flaws appear because of strong tension, and so on. A man, on the contrary, becomes domestic. He's afraid of work. He sits at home all day, starts drinking, becomes lazy, lies in bed, becomes capricious, irritable. All this comes from lack of energy. When a man and woman have enough energy, then the woman loses male character flaws, and the man loses female ones. And if there's an even greater lack of energy, then homosexuality develops. It's caused by severe lack of energy. A woman cannot live with men, she prefers women. A man cannot be with women, he prefers men. This comes from lack of energy. Therefore, replenishing energy is fundamental. First of all, you need a correct lifestyle. You need to perform healing practices in order to fix your character and everything else. Then comes discipline, or the next stage of relationships. What to do next if you have enough energy but you still behave incorrectly? It means you don't treat people kindly. Respect a woman for her femininity, for her beauty. Treat women gently and tenderly. Respect men for their knowledge, for their strength, for their courage. Be respectful. Don't argue with a man's opinion when a man is speaking. When a man speaks, listen, don't argue. A woman shouldn't behave rudely. This is the culture of relationships. And be benevolent to all people. If someone offended you or did something wrong, don't jump to conclusions. Don't become aggressive. Try to carefully and kindly perceive everything that happens around you, even if something unfavorable is happening to you. And the third thing you need to learn is to deeply understand human nature, the nature of relationships. In family life, don't try to figure things out. It's useless. The energy of knowledge doesn't work. Only through kindness and a yielding approach can you help a person understand you. Explain kindly if they're listening. And they will listen if there is respect. Respect means not trying to figure out relationships. You should simply always accept a person. If they violate commandments, then immediately distance yourself also in a kind way. Immediately start maintaining distance. Stay away from such a person. Don't agree to live in piggish, animal ways of coexistence. We can take questions about character flaws.
Sarah is asking, you've partially answered what flaws in men and women interfere with family life. What kind of flaws would make a person never able to live a family life?
There are people in pure goodness, in passion, and in degradation. People in degradation will never be able to. These aren't character flaws, but ways of responding to the world. A person in degradation believes that all life revolves around them. If someone doesn't want to make them happy, then they must force this person. This could be a woman or a man. A woman in degradation constantly draws attention to herself, demands love, behaves very aggressively, forces others to love her. She behaves very aggressively and harshly. If something is slightly off, she gets deeply offended. This is an approach of degradation. A man in degradation behaves very rudely, forces submission to his will, makes demands, hits people if something isn't right. It's impossible to live with a person in degradation. The family will fall apart. If a person's life concept is everything revolves around me and I am the center of life, if you don't want to live as I do, then I will force you, then there will be no family. People in passion have expanded selfishness. They live for their close people. Men and women live for their family. They do not live for themselves, but for the family. That means expanded selfishness. How do people in passion function? If it's a good period in life, they enjoy it, they're happy, they live well, everything is good in their lives. If it's a bad period in life, then they start destroying families because enduring and suffering is not part of their plans. They need to always enjoy life. If it's a bad period, people in passion either start learning how to live correctly and preserve the family, or they destroy it. People in passion destroy the family only during bad periods. People in degradation always destroy it. They don't have families, they're lonely. And people in pure goodness always strive to preserve the family, but don't always succeed, because sometimes fate can be very cruel, which can easily destroy the family even for people in pure goodness. Therefore, all this depends precisely on the state of the ego. It doesn't depend on a person's character, but on the state of their ego. If a person has a bad character, but their ego is in pure goodness, they will still be able to live a good family life because they will quickly begin to change their character. What is character? It's a way of responding to people around you. The way of responding depends on energy, upbringing, and understanding of people. 3 things. If you have enough energy, proper upbringing, and understand people, your character becomes better. You become a person with a normal character. Because you've patched all these holes and everything is okay with you. But if you're in degradation and have an incorrect life concept, you believe that everyone should be forced to please you. Then even if you have enough energy, proper upbringing, and understanding people, you still won't be able to live in a family because you have the wrong idea about life. Therefore, you should strive to be in pure goodness. A person in pure goodness strives to live for others, a passionate person for their family, and a person in degradation for themselves. If you strive to live for other people, if you are benevolent, even if you have a bad character, let's say you tend to get offended, angry, or something else, all this will gradually be corrected. It's not a problem. Character is a way of responding. It changes over time. The way of responding changes as a result of living correctly. Character is not what people often think. They think that character is a sentence, but it changes. People have flaws. They change gradually if these 3 conditions I listed are met. You have enough energy, you cultivate a benevolent attitude toward people, and you understand human nature. What flaws are natural for a person? You shouldn't scold them for these. For example, a woman doesn't want to go to work. This is natural for her. She wasn't born to work, she was born for family. If she doesn't want to take care of children, that's already a problem. If a woman doesn't want to clean, do laundry, take care of children, she wants to go to work, then this is a problem. It means she severely lacks energy. She needs to replenish her energy. Then she will have the desire to take care of children because it's her nature. If she has no strength, she won't be able to stay with children. She'll strive to go to work. This means she needs to perform healing practices. In other words, don't be afraid of a person's character. People are often afraid. They think a person has a bad character. It's impossible to live with them. Figure out this topic. If a person is tense, they need prolonged, continuous movement. If they have a negative state of mind, then they need fasting, sauna, exposure to the sun, and getting rid of unnecessary food that enhances negativity. Gradually remove meat, fish from your diet. If a man drinks alcohol, it means he lacks water energy. Smoking means lack of air energy. Drugs mean lack of sun energy. When energies are restored, bad habits disappear. Bad habits, this is character. For any person, if they smoke, it means they surely lack air energy. When a person practices prolonged continuous movement, they stop smoking. If one drinks, it means one definitely lacks water energy. If one goes to the swimming pool, does static exercises, one won't need alcohol anymore. If a person smokes marijuana, it means one definitely lacks sun energy. Being in the sun, fasting, and sauna help to quit smoking marijuana. In other words, often we perceive something as a sentence. A man drinks, and we say, he is doomed. That's it. It's impossible to live with him. He's a drunkard. Try to organize life correctly. A woman should start going to the swimming pool by herself, then start doing static exercises, gradually engaging him in this. And he will stop drinking, and you'll keep a good person with you. It's difficult to find a good man. And if he's good but drinks, you just need to help him live correctly. That's all. And you'll have a good person next to you. But if you perceive it like this, he has a bad character, that's it, I won't live with him. Then what's there to catch in this world? Everyone has a bad character. Where can you find someone with a good character here? You know what else ruins character? Family life. People had good characters. The woman had a good character. The man had a good character. They started living together. Both developed bad characters. This happens because of expectations. A man expects happiness with a woman. When a person expects something, they immediately start to get nervous. When you stand in line, you get nervous about whether you'll get something or not. Character is ruined by expectations. When people get together, they have enormous expectations of happiness from each other. That's why offenses, anger, rage arise. Everyone is waiting for something. Character deteriorates just from family life. If a man lives without a woman, he has an excellent character. A woman lives without a man, she has an excellent character. When they start living together, everything gets spoiled. Because expectations started. This also needs to be taken into account. Next questions.
What is bad family karma when you meet people with flaws or when you have flaws that prevent you from creating a family?
Do not confuse things. Karma is energy. In your past life, you cheated. You receive a certain energy inside yourself that makes you marry a woman who will be inclined to cheat on you. It's the energy that makes this happen. When she lived with someone else, she didn't want to cheat, then she started living with you, and she got this desire to cheat. The energy that comes from you makes this happen. Or such energy comes from you that you tend to get into accidents. Your concentration decreases. You drive, don't notice oncoming traffic, and get into an accident. This is karma. Karma is not character, but energy. Once I was walking in Moscow and I had this feeling inside. I was walking and praying. When a person prays, they contact God. When they contact God, God has an opportunity to help. When you contact God, He can help you. If you don't address God, then fate acts. But I pray and contact God. Usually I like to walk fast. I enjoy it. But that time I heard a voice, walk slower, walk slower. I thought, even slower? Even slower, even slower, slower. How much slower can I walk? And it was already an unpleasant feeling. How much slower can I walk? And while I was thinking about this, a few meters in front of me, right from the wall, a huge multi-ton metal storefront fell. If I had been there, it would have simply killed me. The storefront just fell, and a woman was walking next to me, and we turned to look at each other. God saved my life. We weren't hurt by this storefront. It fell right in front of us. This is fate. The fate was overcome. I could have been injured, could have died, but because I was praying, God saved me, didn't let me get into this situation. Therefore, fate is an energy that has an impact on a person. When the time came, the husband started looking at other women. This is energy. You can influence the situation only with strength. You can try to fix the situation. Act, do something. Don't let him do this. Distance yourself. Make him relate correctly to these things. If you agree to any outcome, then he will leave you. It's inevitable. Therefore, fate and character are different things. Let's say a child's character deteriorated. The child started behaving badly, doesn't want to study at school, and wants to hang out with idiots. It's not that someone cast the evil eye on your child, spoiling their character. You think someone looked at the child and their character was spoiled. People simply don't understand. They see that something influences the child but don't understand that this is how fate acts. Fate is energy. When it acts, it changes things. Life becomes difficult for you. Everything gets ruined because it's hard for you. Imagine a person has no skin. You touch them. They will scream immediately because it's very painful without skin. And you'll think, what a nervous person. But they're a very calm person, but just have no skin. That's why the person became nervous. This is how fate acts. It exposes the psyche. It doesn't allow a person to react normally. Therefore, fate ruins character. Fate ruins character, not some other things. When the time comes, a bad period begins. A person's character deteriorates. You need to know this about your loved ones, about yourself, about whoever you want. You live with a person, you have no guarantees. If a very difficult fate begins to influence them, their character will deteriorate. You won't recognize them. Externally, the person will behave very badly, and internally they will feel very bad. It will be difficult for them. They will be trying to survive. How does a woman's character deteriorate? She falls into depression. She becomes sensitive. She becomes inert, can't do anything. She isolates herself, sits alone somewhere in a room. Doesn't want to interact with anyone. She reacts very irritably to everything, becomes capricious. This is a female reaction to fate. When a man experiences bad fate, he becomes aggressive, hyperactive. His eyes become square. He yells, wants something, demands, waves his hands. He develops insomnia, bad habits. A woman, on the contrary, hibernates. A man has insomnia. A woman can also have insomnia. Bad fate can act in different ways. A man overstrains his body. And a woman struggles with emotions. A man's psyche becomes tense. He becomes all uptight, while a woman expresses it through emotions. Emotions become tense. She becomes sensitive. She reacts to everything. The man is tense inside, cannot relax. He needs to drink or smoke to relax, or he starts playing the field in order to relax. This is what really happens. This is how fate works. I've already told you about a man who had a consultation with me. He's going crazy. He needs a second wife. He's simply going crazy. He needs a second wife. And he had a whole consultation with me. I recommended all kinds of healing practices to calm this energy. He's Muslim. He doesn't want to leave his wife, but he needs another one. He's going crazy, that's it. I recommended healing practices. Nothing helped. 6 months passed, and he already decided to take a second wife. Because he can't do anything about it. He's simply going crazy. This is how fate works. Therefore, fate is a force that ruins everything around. If a person has the strength to resist it, then they won't be ruined. Therefore, one needs to learn how to overcome one's fate. To study this, fate is overcome through healing practices, through good deeds, through prayer, good mood, goodwill, the right attitude toward people. Healing practices neutralize the influence of time energy. Where do they neutralize it? In your body, in your mood, in your health, in your workability. Through healing practices, you neutralize bad fate, you don't let it act. The right attitude toward people also neutralizes bad fate. You maintain the ability to react correctly to people. And if you read a prayer, then you can prevent the influence of fate. It won't do anything to you. You won't be put in prison, won't be robbed, a storefront won't fall on you. If you interact with God, you can prevent fate from affecting you, prevent it completely. Simply nothing will happen, and that's it. If you pray, you can overcome bad fate. If it's supposed to make it so you don't get married, then you pray and you get married. This is how prayer works. It overcomes fate. Next questions.
They ask about subordinates. For what shortcomings an employee needs to be fired? How to remain in pure goodness when firing or punishing an employee? Such shortcomings as lying, gossiping, and not learning.
It's very important to understand one thing at work. If there's a large team and a subordinate turns people against management, they need to be fired, even if they work well. Because they will simply destroy the team. They are an instigator. They consciously or unconsciously destroy the atmosphere. They need to be fired. If a subordinate steals, they are inclined to steal, they need to be fired. Because you won't remove this tendency, they will still want to steal. If a subordinate is lazy by nature, doesn't want to work, you force them, and they only work under supervision. If you control them, they work. If you don't control them, they don't work. That means you need to fire such a person. If a subordinate has serious bad habits, drinks, most likely you need to fire them. The question is to what degree the bad habit influences them. If a subordinate is prone to aggression, to beat someone up, to do something bad when they are offended, then it's better to fire them. Because otherwise there will be problems, there will be fights, violence. If a person violates commandments, if one tends not to follow commandments, it's better not to get involved with such a person at work. If the person doesn't obey, doesn't fulfill their duties, they have a list of responsibilities but they don't want to do them, so they need to be fired. How to fire kindly? You need to always treat people kindly in general, and you need to simply explain to the person, unfortunately, I couldn't manage. It's not your fault. I couldn't manage. I couldn't make it so that you worked, that you didn't fight, that you didn't steal. I couldn't do it. I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Therefore, I will have to fire you. That's it. When firing, you need to do something good for the person. Give them a bonus or help them with something in life or something else. Somehow thank them, give them a gift. It's best to do something nice when you fire a person, to show that you have a good attitude toward them. If some mistake happened by accident, punish the person, observe them. If everything gets corrected, don't fire them then. But people don't steal by accident. People don't become aggressive by accident, don't beat people up. These are all patterns, but a person might accidentally fail to cope with some work that happens. You need to give a person an opportunity, train them, watch them. Sometimes a person loses their temper, argues with someone. It's nothing terrible. You need to watch them, see if they're not inclined to this, then keep them. And if a person has been working excellently for a long time and something went wrong, this could be a temporary phenomenon. They've shown themselves well for a long time, but now let's say they did something wrong. You need to work with them and keep them. If a person has just arrived and immediately started making mistakes, then it's better not to keep them. That's why people are given a probationary period to determine whether a person can work here at all or not, whether this job is suitable for the person or not. There are people who cannot work anywhere because they don't have the qualities. They are undeveloped people. They can't engage, they're always late or carelessly perform duties, argue with everyone, constantly quarrel. There are people who cannot work. Next question.
What shortcomings emerge from low self-esteem?
Being offended, depression, permissiveness. A person makes monsters out of their loved ones. They allow everything. Their loved ones do whatever they want. The person doesn't believe that they can be successful. If there's low self-esteem, a person cannot be successful. To be successful, you need to believe that you can cope. This is high self-esteem. If a person has low self-esteem, they cannot be successful. They cannot achieve their goals in life. They give in all the time, are permissive, spoil people around them. People around them become evil, proud, rude. If a man or a woman has low self-esteem, then the person loses their beauty. With low self-esteem, A person might not even get married at all because no one will look at them. With low self-esteem, you won't get into university. You won't be able to get a job. You won't be noticed. You're invisible everywhere, not needed by anyone. You have poor health because low self-esteem always causes bad energies to move inside. Your health will even deteriorate, and you'll always have negative emotions. If a person hasn't engaged in life, it means they will die. Low self-esteem means you don't want to live. You are disappointed in life. People who don't want to live, they die from cancer or something else, they kill themselves. This is all low self-esteem. This is a serious illness, and self-esteem depends on the good deeds the person did, and on faith. These are two things that self-esteem depends on. And on healing practices as well. When a person does healing practices, their self-esteem becomes stronger. When a person does good deeds, self-esteem becomes stronger. When a person prays to God, self-esteem becomes stronger. When self-esteem is strong, all your best qualities are visible. Everyone can see them. If self-esteem is weak, nobody sees you at all. You're an invisible person. Therefore, self-esteem is a very important factor in a person's life in general. The higher self-esteem, the better. The best character traits come out, the worst ones hide. If self-esteem comes from a person's true ego, all the best in them is visible, and good fortune accompanies their life. If your self-esteem is based on false ego, you try to impose yourself on everyone. You don't show yourself through your actions, but you show off. You're constantly trying to pretend to be someone you're not. Then all your worst qualities will manifest. People don't like those who try to show off. Such a person is unpleasant. When a person simply lives correctly and proves it through their actions, then everyone loves and believes such people. There must be self-esteem. Every person must be dignified. A woman should be beautiful. That is her self-esteem. A woman should love people. Beauty in women means loving people. If a woman loves people, it means she is beautiful. If she doesn't love people, no one will see her beauty. Beauty is an exchange of energy. She should love all people. This means she is beautiful. A woman's self-esteem works through beauty. A man's self-esteem works through strength. A man should be strong. He shouldn't be weak. If a man is strong, everyone respects him. If weak, nobody respects him. If a woman is beautiful, everyone respects her. If not beautiful, nobody respects her. Next question. Hello, everyone. My name is Alice. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. Why is it so hard when you push yourself, get up early, do healing practices, follow principles while your husband doesn't even make an effort, yet feels great? Should I influence by my example or leave the person alone? Even if I explain this 1,000 times, people still won't understand, because this is a very complex topic. My dears, if your close person doesn't make an effort, it means you're keeping the wrong distance with them. Besides care, there is also discipline in the family. To discipline doesn't mean to tell him something and argue with him. To discipline means to keep distance. If you see that a close person lives incorrectly, distance yourself from them. Show that you don't like it, that you don't agree with such a life. Distance yourself, show it. If you are dear to him and you live correctly, it means he experiences happiness from you. This is very simple to understand. Your close person experiences happiness from you because you live correctly, but you don't experience happiness from him because he lives incorrectly. So close the source of happiness. Distance yourself, don't give him happiness. Show him that it won't work this way. If you distance yourself and he responds, it means everything is getting better. Learn to defend your rights, but in a kind way. This is done through getting closer and distancing. And you say, I don't agree to such a relationship. That's it. That's the distance. Say in a kind way, I simply don't agree. I have the right to disagree. Express your inner freedom. Freedom means that you agree to something and disagree with something else, and do it kindly. Don't get angry. And that's it. Your close person will start to change. This is what discipline is, getting closer and distancing. There's no other way to discipline your loved one. If you start pressuring him, he will pressure you back. You won't be able to influence the situation at all. It's impossible. Men come home tired after work, and perhaps they don't have enough energy for additional healing practices. Of course, I've already said that a man can work himself to exhaustion. And why is he working? Because of your desires. You say, I can't live in a 2-room apartment. I want a 3-room one. And he loves you. He starts working 2 jobs, takes out a mortgage, works himself to exhaustion, comes home, and you think, why isn't he doing anything at home? It's clear that because of your desires, he can't do anything at home, Because he's exhausted, because you want a more spacious apartment. Understand then, if he's exhausted, give him the opportunity to rest. It's simple. It's an obvious thing. If a man is exhausted at work, he's tired, his energy isn't infinite, a person always has limited energy. Where is the line between laziness and this exhaustion? How do we understand this line in this case? By the effort applied. If your husband works 12 hours a day and is lazy at home, it's foolish to think that way. Go work 12 hours, let's see how you'll behave. Or a woman has 5 children and she's being lazy about something. If there are 5 children, how can one be lazy? It's impossible to be lazy. There's a lot of work with children. You have to do everything, take care of them. And she's tired, let's say, being lazy. When a person is tired, they definitely need to rest. If a person does nothing and just lies around, then they're being lazy. Then distance is needed. You know, there are people who work very hard, then rest for a long time. They work 24 hours, they have time only for sleep, and they work like this for a whole month, then come home. How does she perceive a husband who works like this? She sees that he's lounging around, but in reality, he's recovering. He needs to get enough sleep first. When I come home, I spend 3 days just catching up on sleep. I have no free time at all, constantly doing one thing or another. One lecture program alone takes about 5 hours. I give it my all. Naturally, tension accumulates. When I come home, I have 3 days to catch up on sleep. I just lie down, recover. Obviously, this is a lazy husband. It's unlikely that I can be called lazy. Because the workload is very heavy. There are lazy people, then you need to discipline them, keep distance, and set conditions. If you want to live with me, then get involved. If you don't want to, goodbye. There are no other ways, only like this. Thank you. Julia asks, Dr. Torsunov, please tell me, what should I do if my husband has a skeptical character, and he doesn't even want to hear lectures about the right way of living? He says that it's impossible to teach life, that it's not pottery. It's okay, accept him. Sometimes a person is skeptically minded. It's his nature. He's simply a fundamentalist. He accepts everything fundamentally, and if you treat him kindly, listen to lectures, change yourself, he will see that it's possible to learn about life. He will see it, accept it, and will start learning himself. It's just that some people get involved quickly and some very slowly. That's his character. He takes a fundamental approach to everything. He needs to understand very deeply in order to get involved. You need to calmly and kindly accept this. It's okay. The time will come. He will get involved. Definitely. Because when the sun rises, shadows disappear. Sometimes there's a tall building with a very large shadow in front of it, but when the sun is high, that shadow also disappears. This tall building represents people with such skeptical attitudes. It takes a lot of facts for the shadow to disappear. Sometimes there's a field where there's no shadow at all, and sometimes there are trees that cast shadows. So there are different environments in which you live. There are people who need a lot of proof before they understand. But then they understand fundamentally for a long time, and there are those who understand quickly and quickly grasp something new. All people are different. Both have disadvantages. A person who takes a long time to understand won't deviate for a long time afterward, and if someone understands quickly, they can quickly fall off track. This is also, by the way, a characteristic of the nature of men and women, so that you know. Women grasp everything quickly, but quickly change their interests. They quickly get carried away with something and then quickly switch to something else, and men take a long time to get involved, but then they stay with it for life. That means that everything constantly changes for a woman. She's like a river. Everything changes for her. On the contrary, once a man gets involved in something, it's for a long time. This is also a peculiarity of men and women. Therefore, men generally take longer to get involved. Take statistics, for example, Instagram. It's a social network where new people get involved. Do you know what percentage of women and men watch these new reels? Do you know what the percentage is? 85% women and only 15 men. And if you look at long lectures, then it's 60% women, 40% men. So women quickly catch on to something new, get involved right away, but men don't. Men study everything fundamentally, much more than women. That's just nature. A woman searches for everything new, tries to understand it. A man gradually gets involved over time. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.